At the beginning here is just talk briefly. We're going to do a relaxation exercise in just a minute, but I'd like to talk about it just for a second because it's so interesting, this concept of breathing. And probably don't worry about, am I taking notes? Am I going to have to know this? Just kind of let's have this brief discussion, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page with this idea. So do you remember the first day when we sat up in our chairs and we went like this, and we counted how many breaths we had, and we tested to see if we were chest or stomach breathers? Remember that part of the initial self-assessment? How many in here, and I might have asked this before, but how many in here were chest-only breathers? Nobody? Chest and stomach? How many were? So when you breathe, it's kind of a simultaneous. And so stomach only, raise your hand, which is higher than most classes that I teach. There's only stomach. So we decide, I think we mentioned this also, that the natural way of breathing is which of those three? When you're just in homeostasis. What were you going to say? What did I hear? Yes. Stomach. Yeah, if you look at a baby, stomach breathes. When you look at animals, it's just stomach. In other words, what we mean when we say stomach breathing is you inhale and the air goes down into the lower parts of our lungs. It pushes down the diaphragm, and since there's not enough room, out pops your stomach. There's not enough room for all the organs in there when the diaphragm moves down, and that's why it comes out. If you're a chest breather, what that means is you're tending to breathe with muscles that aren't initially designed for breathing, but are being recruited because you're giving yourself the message that you should be trying to get more air in because you think you're in the stress mode. Okay? But that's not the normal way to breathe. But since most of us think we're still in the stress mode, though it's subconscious, we breathe, bless you, irregularly. We breathe unnecessarily. Let me just tell you a couple quick things that I think are really fascinating. Does anyone know, you guys who are in the medical world or the clinical world, what does the term capillarization mean? Does anyone know what that word means? Capillarization. Capillaries, capillarization. Does anyone know? So, what's a capillary? Okay. Okay, we have blood vessels, and then so we have arteries, veins, and capillaries are part of the moving the blood through the body. Where's the capillaries? Corey, what did you say?
They're the very smallest.
And what do they do?
They bring the blood right to the actual cells.
Yeah, the capillaries is where the transfer of blood and oxygen and sugar and other nutrients goes from one tissue, say blood vessel, into another to deliver that which is in the blood vessel. Or in the case of our lungs, when we breathe in, when we go, the air goes into our lungs, and then through the capillaries, which are really, really tiny, they go into the bloodstream. Right? It just through those alveoli in there, the little cauliflower-looking things in our lungs, the oxygen transfers from the lungs into the bloodstream. It goes back to the heart. Heart transfers it back to the whole body. We all know that, right? So here's the interesting thing. When people people think, oh, if I breathe quickly, I'm getting more air in. You know, I'm getting more oxygen. But interestingly, there are more capillaries in the lower parts of our lungs than in the upper parts of our lungs. There's more capillarization. In other words, when you breathe deeply, and this pops out, that's how you get more oxygen into your body than, you know, the pace of it might assist somewhat. But that's one of the reasons why we like deep breathing, is because we really are, I mean, our brain runs entirely on oxygen and sugar. All of our organs, our muscles, everything uses oxygen. The more we can get in there, you know, under our own volition, the better off we are. But if we're breathing chestly, it's not a word, I know, but if we're breathing from our chest mostly, we're not getting nearly the amount of oxygen we could be getting in. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. Another thing that I came upon that's really fascinating about breathing, and this is just an FYI kind of cool idea, but they say that we take in, with each inhalation, about 10 to the power of 22 oxygen molecules. 10 with 22 zeros after it, oxygen molecules with each inhalation. And they say that, and I don't know, the person from whom I got this was a pretty reputable person. He said radioisotope studies have shown that essentially we have breathed in oxygen molecules that have been in the body of every other person that has ever lived. Does that make sense, what I'm saying? In other words, because we breathe it in and we breathe it out. And everyone's done that. And so everyone that has ever lived, we're still breathing the air that once was in their bodies. Isn't that cool? It's just fun facts to know. Doesn't help anything, but it's fun to know. When we are in the stress response, the breath tends to be... You've seen people, like you watch horror movies, and you see the girl who's, you know, ready to be... She's in her house and the music's going, and you know that something bad's going to happen. Well, how's she breathing? You see her going... You know, her chest is up and down, her shoulders are getting involved in the action of the breathing. Stress response. Well, when we breathe normally, we can actually, that is one way that we can actually interrupt the stress response in a conscious way. When we breathe very deeply and very, well, slowly, without trying too hard, but deeply, we can actually... it's one way that we give the signal to our body that we're okay. Do you know what? Does that make sense now from what we've talked about the last few days? Because the stress response, we're giving ourselves the message, I'm not okay. Okay, I better speed up everything. And so when we consciously breathe deeply, our body goes, oh, I guess he's okay. Cool, good. And so it listens to that physiology that we're creating. Kind of a cool thing. Well, in my studying different... If you go around the world and you look for all the different types of meditation that people do and relaxation exercises, almost every single one of them has some component of breathing. There's yoga poses, or there's different yoga activities that have very strange kinds of breathing that's not, you know, just... some of it's faster. I mean, if you study that at all, it's very interesting to see the different ways that people breathe. But meditation, some meditation are just a focus on breathing. We're going to do something like that here in just a minute. And so breathing is really an integral component of relaxation. And I could show you about the many different kinds, but I want to just give you one way that I want us to practice together as a class. And it's about as easy as it gets. But this is how I'd like you to follow along. As we do this, we're going to all lie on the floor, and I'm actually not going to guide you through this one. You're going to do this one entirely on your own. So, but it couldn't be more easy than this. How this will work, you'll have, you'll be focusing on the inhale and the exhale, okay? So that's your consciousness will be as much as you can staying on your breath, and it'll go away. That's how the mind works. It just gets distracted, and then just gently be kind to yourself and go back to your focus on your breathing. And the way that will help us to keep our mind focused on this, there's nothing magical about this, but the way we're going to focus on this is you're going to inhale, and each time you inhale, you'll say a number, and we're going to start at 20. And you're going to, as you inhale, you'll say to yourself, and it's just to keep you on your breath, you'll say 20. And when you exhale, you'll say the word relax. Okay? And you'll do that kind of 20 to about 16, just say relax each time. So you'll inhale, and you won't say it out loud. That would be not fun. You say it just to yourself, so I'm saying it to myself. 20, relax. And I don't want you to try and make yourself relax, just say the word, okay? And then at about 15 to about 11, say calm or something. So each time you inhale, 15, calm. 10 to 6, say, I don't know, peace or serene. Just say something like that. And then about 5 to 0, say still. And really, I mean, we could say anything here. It doesn't make any difference. I just want you to have something that will keep your mind on your breath. That's all this is. And then after you're done, because everyone will finish at a different pace, after you're done, just lie there. And if you want to fall asleep, fine. If you want to just think about an upcoming something that you need to plan for, fine. I mean, whatever you do with your mind at that point, that's fine. Just stay there lying down until we're done. And I will, at some point, I'll bring every one of us out. I'll get your attention, and then I'll slowly return us to normal consciousness like we did with the power nap when we ended it. Okay? So this is what we'll do. What I'd like you to do is grab a mat, and I'd like you to actually put your chairs on the tables so that we've got much more floor room, and so you can just put your mats